Hi, I'm David, and I'd like to show you something that really helps with a lot of the couples that I've counseled with. Through more than 35 years of counseling, this problem has happened more often probably than any other problem that couples encounter. Let me show you what happens. Here, let's just say we have a real nice, handsome guy named John. John is a really nice looking dude. Not much wrong with him, to be honest with you. He doesn't have any fingers or toes, but he's a pretty good looking dude. And what happens is that John and Mary sit here and give Mary some eyelashes. John and Mary first see each other and they think, hey, she's a pretty good looking girl. He's a good looking guy. And before long, they start dating one another, and they're neither one of them perfect, but they think maybe there's something that they can have that might last for a lifetime as far as their marriage is concerned. Well, so John and Mary decide to go ahead and get married. Immediately, what happens is that sometimes some of John's family of origin issues start popping up, and just the fact that he's a guy. We men have different ways of doing things and different ways of thinking. But then also, there are some of the things that happen in Mary's family of origin that creep into their marriage and become a bit divisive between the two of them, or just the fact that she's a woman and she just thinks in a different way than John does. And they don't seem to be able to resolve these problems. And what happens between John and Mary is these become stumbling blocks for them. And then before too awfully long, they may have some problems with things like sex, problems with things like money. If they have kids, they may have other problems with kids and decisions about discipline and things like that. And then there's a whole myriad of other problems ranging from A to Z that they may have. And what happens is a wall starts coming between John and Mary. And when they don't resolve any of these issues, what happens is this wall blocks their ability to see one another. One of the things that I've seen that happen so many times is that because of the fact the wall exists, John and Mary start looking more at the wall than remembering the good things that they saw in each other before they got married. And they mount a picture on each one of their sides of the wall, thinking of what they look like based on the wall rather than based on what they really and truly look like. And Mary's picture here of John, when she has to look this direction, Mary's picture here of John looks more like something like this. And she has a little plaque underneath her picture that says, oh my gosh, what a loser. Now at the same time that happens, John has mounted a picture of what he thinks Mary looks like based on the wall. And his picture of Mary may even look like something like this. And he's mounted a little plaque underneath his picture of Nag. And every time John looks Mary's way, his thoughts go to this rather than thinking about this beautiful girl that he married, all the wonderful things about her that he knew that were true before the wall existed. There's another thing that happens in this dynamic as well. Any wall is held together by mortar. And sometimes the mortar is sometimes known as unforgiveness. Sometimes it's resentment. Sometimes it's even lying. They may even resort sometimes to lying to one another. And this mortar starts holding and cementing this wall together. And before long, John and Mary are ready for divorce court because they're thinking about all the negative things about one another rather than things that they first thought were good about one another. Well, the antidote to this is a wonderful antidote, and it's a wonderful promise in Scripture. In the 4th chapter of Philippians, Paul talks about two people in the church who have gotten kind of crosswise with one another. And they think about, she's okay but this, and he's okay but that. And they focus more on the buts than they think we really focus on the beauty that they see in one another. And Paul says if you want to have the God's honor and you want to have God to really know that he loves you, you'll dwell on the things that are right and pure and lovely and excellent and worthy of praise. One of the things that I constantly have couples do is before they even start talking about which of these problems are fixable and which ones they need to drop and just completely learn how to let go of, is to dwell on the things that are right and pure and lovely and excellent, worthy of praise. Make a list. Make a list of all the good virtues that you see in your wife, men. And ladies, make a list of all the good things you can see in your husband. try to remember those and start thinking of those things instead of dwelling on these. That will make it so much easier to decipher which of these are worth working on and which of them are easier to drop and how to resolve them. And once we start eliminating some of these problems and remove the mortar and we remove and forgive one another, stop lying to one another, and move these blocks out of the way, then we can really and truly get back into a scenario where we can see one another. And that's what marriage is all about, leaning into one another rather than fighting with one another about all these things. I hope this will give you some great help as you think about how you can make your marriage something that's healthy and fruitful in the days ahead.